I want to check in on a little bit of reporting, some escalations, really in terms of Russian, American, NATO, Ukraine relations. Things are all hell's breaking loose. Quite the escalation is taking place. And I don't know if credit's the right word, but I gave Trump some credit yesterday that he seemed to endorse the idea that Ukraine could really, quote unquote, win. And this was a reversal. I do have to be hesitant because he seems to flip-flop every 2 seconds, but he had a much more supportive tone than we've heard in a long time. I'll show you a clip of that. Now him saying it publicly, not just posting it. But there's a few things that's happening in front of the backdrop of, which are fascinating. Washington Post reports, Hegseth orders rare, urgent. I have no idea if this is connected, but just kind of giving you a few things that I felt like had some weird association. Hegseth orders rare, urgent meeting of hundreds of generals and admirals. Really unusual move. So Hegseth has ordered hundreds of the U.S. military generals and admirals to gather on short notice and without a stated reason at the Marine Corps base in Virginia next week, sowing confusion and alarm after the Trump administration's firing of numerous senior leaders this year. And it notes that none of the people who spoke to the Post could recall a defense secretary ever ordering so many of the military's generals and admirals to assemble like this. Several said it raised security concerns. These are people from different parts of the world. 800 generals and admirals spread across the United States and dozens of other countries and time zones. So very weird. This is happening as, and I'm not saying these are connected, I'm just trying to figure out what could this have to do with. U.S. fighter jets scrambled to intercept Russian warplanes near Alaska. Kind of as Russia continues, they've been entering NATO airspace, continues to push the envelope. And we'll look at the latest from Russia and Zelensky on that. But here's what Trump had to say.
But I'm very disappointed in Putin. And he's been fighting hard. He's been fighting long, and they lost millions. They lost like 1 million soldiers. And you know, they've, with all of the heavy bombardment over the last 2 weeks, they've gained almost no land. Think of that. They've gained almost no land. And I'm not going to ever call anybody a paper tiger, but Russia spent millions and millions of dollars in bombs, missiles, ammunition, and lives, their lives, and they've gained virtually no land. I think it's time to stop. I really do.
So he's not really equivocating like he used to, at least in this exact moment on this day that we're recording this. Tomorrow he could wake up and be Putin's best friend again. This has to manifest into actions, obviously, as he'll continue to repeat, but obviously that shift in tone is really infuriating Russia because they get infuriated about anyone ever suggesting that maybe they shouldn't be able to invade sovereign countries at will. So you can imagine if that infuriates the Russian government, then this statement from Zelensky definitely would.
If we will have such long-distance weapon from the United States, we will use it.
Against Moscow?
We are not terrorists. Even our people, for today, they hate Russians because they began the war and they killed us. But all our people understand that we don't need to attack civilians.
And they attacked the Prime Minister's office.
Yeah, they attacked.
So if, what would you tell somebody who works at the Kremlin today? Would you tell him to make sure he knows where the nearest bomb shelter is?
First of all, they have to know where their bomb shelters are. If they will not stop the war, they will need it in any case.
Yeah, so every time he says that if their government's going to keep being attacked, their civilians massacred Ukrainians, and EU government buildings hit, and a full-scale invasion of their country, that they will go after strategic targets inside of Russia, as they've been doing with like oil refineries, which has been really important and really good, but potentially even putting the top military leaders at risk, and they need to know where their bomb shelters are. The reaction from obviously Russian government, folks, but also just a lot of people on the right is, oh my gosh, how dare they suggest that they would increase their attacks within the inside of Russia. It's like, I don't understand what you think they're supposed to do. They just have to keep sitting there and only defending, and never try to make clear that Russia needs to stop this in another way. Now, attacks against civilians, I'm always going to oppose. There, he specifically deciphered that, or discerned between those two different things, and was talking about leaders, Russian government leaders. But it's so insane. Maybe I can, and I'll show you the Russian reaction, play for you real quick. Something that we put together after the attack when I was in Kyiv, on Kyiv, by the Russian military, that hit European countries' diplomatic buildings. Like, that's how, that are listed specifically so the Russian government knows where they are so they won't hit them. Let's see.
I do just want to say, right-wingers, every single time Ukraine does anything to fight back, the response from everyone is Ukraine's going to pull us into World War III.
They're dragging us into a kinetic third world war.
They're escalating. Even when they do attacks that don't kill any civilians, they go, oh, they're going to pull us into nuclear war. Well, they can't do anything. They just need to keep getting pounded and do nothing in response. And then Russia literally strikes what are supposed to be completely untouchable targets and is escalating with the Western world like that, attacking them directly. And I'm not going to hear a word from MAGA about it. They're not going to say Putin's pulling us into an escalation of a war. Where are you, MAGA?
Yes, that was a little short form video that we posted today on that phenomenon, the double standard that Russia will continue to invade Ukraine, but Ukraine can never strike targets within Russia. Seems very confusing. Speaking of, Dmitry Medvedev said, the Kyiv drug addict, talking about Zelensky, said the Kremlin should know where a bomb shelter is so its occupants can hide when he uses long-range American weapons. What the freak needs to know is that Russia can use weapons a bomb shelter won't protect against. Americans should also keep this in mind. So I'm not a military expert. They can do all the analysis from what they know about Russian intel, what would spark a broader conflict and how to prevent. But they've been doing strikes within Russia on like oil refineries I referenced, or they took over a town, and all of the chest pounding didn't actually manifest. And so I don't know exactly what Zelensky's talking about with this next layer to it, but the morality of it is pretty obvious. And then I'm just so sick and tired. It's like we misspell the Kremlin and they're like, hey, did you know we have nuclear weapons? It's like, oh my gosh, we have weapons that bomb shelters won't, rah, 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 rah. And they're so like revved. How dare Zelensky say that they would attack us after we've been attacking them for years? And they would do it in a much more strategic way than Russia ever does. It's not like just the massacring of civilians that Russia's been engaging in. It's crazy. And we looked at that Russian state TV propagandist being like, as Putin said, there's no point of the world if Russia's not in it. Or maybe Stalin said that. I don't know. He was quoting somebody. He was quoting one of the leaders. And who put what in your coffee? What's the deal? You just get to go around invading everybody, and then the second that NATO's like, hey, we're going to help Ukraine stop, you're like, we're at war with you. World War III. Here's Putin.
Иногда мне кажется, что
sometimes it seems to me that whatever Europeans are told from the ocean, I guess from the US,
вот чего им не скажут, они из океана, они все делают. Если им
they will do everything. If they are told tomorrow that we have decided to hang all of you, they will look downcast, being surprised at their audacity, ask only one question, whether it's possible to do it on the ropes of a national production. But even here, they will have a snag, excuse me, and here it seems failure because Americans are unlikely to refuse such a large order for their textile industry. All right, trying to divide us and the EU, I guess. There, then you have what's going on here. This is Lavrov.
Руками которой НАТО и Евросоюз объявили уже моей стране настоящую войну и прямо в ней участвуют.
So again, he says there, NATO has already declared, quote unquote, a real war on my country and are directly participating in it. Dude, bro. Yeah, I wonder, what does he mean? He means, first of all, okay, there's so much. They said, I'm about to show you that, yeah, for them to shoot our planes out of the sky is war when we flew into their airspace, or NATO supporting their ally Ukraine, which Ukraine has the autonomy to get weapons from whoever the hell they want. That's a declaration of war by NATO against you. And they're like, why is everyone mad at us? Stop invading and mass murdering people and you won't have any problem with NATO. And I sound like I'm a NATO. You know what? I am a NATO guy. Lavrov. And Mark Rutte here, or Root, the NATO Secretary General, he's the one who called Trump daddy. And I was really, that kind of turned me off to him. Just a thing that I have. But he had the best response to Lavrov.
Lavrov, I mean, he's foreign minister of Russia, I think, since the birth of Jesus Christ. And since then, anything useful came out of his mouth. So let's not pay too much attention to Mr. Lavrov.
Yeah, also, Russia says this constantly. They're like, oh, NATO, by supporting Ukraine or by saying we would shoot their planes if they come into our airspace or our drones, that, wow, NATO, they want to go to war with us. And you know that, have you ever heard that we have nuclear weapons? It's like, what do you imagine? What are you even suggesting? We're all going to go to war? You really want to go World War III? Russia v. us? Everyone? Oh, well, China would they? I don't even think Xi Jinping wants that right now. He wants that in a few years. Oh, it's so aggravating. They have gotten away with, this is why I'm aggravated about it. Obviously, I'm trying to have fun with it, even though it's something so personal to me now and makes me so angry and emotional. But they get away with so much, the Russian government, because of their threats that no other superpower makes. And they just threat. And that's why they've gotten away with so much. Finally, Ukraine's saying it stops here. But all the other incursions that they've done, all the other violations of sovereignty, they get away with it. They get away with violating priest treaties. They get away with hostility on the world stage and undermining their adversaries and all this because of the threats. Because every 2 seconds, Putin's like, I think I have scheduled another examination of our missiles. And it needs to stop. I don't want to go to war. We're not going to go to war. We shouldn't go to World War III. But supporting Ukraine does not bring us to World War III, as proved by years ago. Russia said, if you give Ukraine that aid, Lavrov, Medvedev was like, you have never seen the weapons that we have. And then they roll a rusty tank down the roads and get crushed. Okay, I saw the tanks. I was there. I saw them. That they tried to bring in thinking they were going to take over all of Ukraine in 2 weeks. And those things, I'm not a tank expert, but they look busted. They look chopped, okay? That's what the tanks look like. Soviet-era trash. So, what did we all go to war with each other? We didn't, because it was a threat, and you try to get away with the massive murdering of people and taking over people's countries with those insane threats. Oh, this was... I was supposed to play this. This was supposed to come before the Root clip.
They fight like hell. You can't stop them. Let them fight for about 2-3 minutes, then it's easy to stop them.
And then Daddy has to sometimes use strong language.
You have to use strong language. Every once in a while, you have to use a certain word.
I think we have to join.
Did he say daddy? I missed it. He did? I wasn't listening. Sorry. All right. Then Russian ambassador to France, Alexei Meshkov, was asked what would be Russia's reaction if one of its planes were shot down in NATO airspace. It would be war. How else could it be described? I thought we're already at war. You can't keep... We just heard Lavrov say that NATO is already at war with us, and they've been at war with us. I heard, when I was 3 years old, the same thing. Also at the beginning of the war. Then it's, oh, if you do this, it's war. Oh, if you do this, it's war. Stop using mass death, the idea of nuclear war, as a threat to get away with everything that you want to do. Quote unquote, it would be war. How else can it be described? If NATO shot down, the question was one of Russia's planes, if it flew into NATO's airspace. Do you know a military plane flying into another country's sovereign airspace? That's like when they're allowed to be shot down. That's a violation of their sovereignty. That's the act of war that Russia's like, oh, we get to fly drones into Poland and drones into, where else was it? Other places. Was it the military jet? Estonia, was it? Far too near Alaska. We had to get our planes ready to go stop them because they're just pushing. But if you do that, it'll be war. And we're Russia. So, nukes and stuff. Have you seen Putin can ride a horse? So aggravating.